Let me ask you something, and don't answer too quickly. When was the last time you felt truly supported, not helped with a task, not given advice, but emotionally held, without having to explain yourself, perform strength, or prove that you deserved it? If you have to pause and think, you're not alone, and you're not broken. There's a certain kind of silence that appears when this question comes up, not because the answer doesn't exist, but because it hasn't been felt in a long time. And if that silence feels familiar, this conversation is for you. To the outside world, you're probably seen as the strong one. You're the reliable one, the person who keeps things moving when others fall apart, the one people call when their life feels heavy. You handle your responsibilities, manage your emotions, and carry other people's weight without making it obvious. You rarely complain. You don't ask for much. And when someone checks in, your answer comes out automatically. I'm fine. I've got it. Most people believe you, because from the outside, it looks like confidence. It looks like independence. It looks like strength. What most people don't see is what happens when the day finally goes quiet, when the messages stop, when there's no one left to take care of, when there's nothing left to hold together. That's when the weight shows up. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy. A tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. A sense that you've been carrying things for so long that you don't even know what it would feel like to put them down. You're not exhausted because you're doing too much. You're exhausted because you're doing it alone. And that difference matters more than most people realize. On the surface, independence always looks the same. Competent, self-reliant, in control. But psychologically, there's a difference most people never talk about. Healthy independence is a choice. It comes from confidence, not fear. It knows how to stand on its own and how to lean when needed. But there's another version, one that doesn't feel flexible, one that doesn't breathe. When independence stops being a preference and starts being a reflex, you don't think, I'd rather do this myself. You think, I have to, because needing someone doesn't feel neutral. It feels uncomfortable, maybe even unsafe. So you keep going. You keep managing. You keep proving, mostly to yourself, that you don't need help. But strength that never gets supported doesn't stay strong. It turns into silence. And silence, carried long enough, becomes loneliness. This pattern doesn't usually begin in adulthood. It begins much earlier. For a child, needing help is natural. It's biological. We're wired to reach out, to cry, to expect someone to come. So when that reaching is met with dismissal, irritation, or absence, something has to change, not in the environment, but inside the child. And that's where the decision happens. Not a dramatic vow, not a conscious choice, a quiet conclusion. I can't count on anyone. I'll handle it myself. That moment is painful, but it's also adaptive. It allows the child to keep functioning without waiting for something that may never arrive. Over time, that strategy hardens into an identity. You grow up fast. You become capable, efficient, reliable. People praise you for it, but beneath that capability is a truth that rarely gets named. You didn't become strong because you were supported. You became strong because you were alone. I'll do it myself wasn't confidence. It was containment. A way to stay ahead of disappointment. A way to avoid rejection. If you never ask, no one can say no. If you never depend, no one can let you down. The problem is what once kept you safe is now keeping you separate. In relationships, this doesn't show up as conflict. It shows up as distance. You're a good partner. You don't ask for much. You don't create drama. But when you never let someone see your uncertainty, your fear, your moments of, I can't do this alone, they don't get the chance to reach you there. So the relationship stays functional, but it never becomes deeply intimate. Many people who live this way eventually say the same thing. People always leave. But here's the harder truth. You weren't abandoned. You were unreachable. Not because you didn't care, but because needing someone once felt dangerous. So you learned to be the one others lean on. You show up. You help. You listen. You fix. From the outside, it looks like connection. It looks like purpose. Inside, it feels very different. Because while people come to you with their problems, few ever sit with yours. Not necessarily because they don't care, but because you've trained them not to. And over time, that creates a quiet resentment. Why does no one ever help me? Why do I always have to be the strong one? What hurts most is that you rarely say these things out loud, because asking feels like breaking the role you perfected. This is the cost of strength without reciprocity. Healing from this doesn't mean becoming dependent. It doesn't mean losing your independence. And it doesn't mean tearing down the walls you built. Those walls protected you when you needed them to. Healing asks for something much smaller and much braver. A different model of strength. One where standing on your own doesn't require standing alone. Interdependence isn't weakness. It's the ability to stay grounded while letting yourself stay connected. This doesn't start with grand confessions or asking for more than you can tolerate. It starts with micro moments. Letting someone carry a small load. Admitting you're tired without apologizing for it. Asking for clarification. Receiving without rushing to give back. Each small moment gives your system new information. Nothing bad happened. I wasn't punished. I wasn't abandoned. Over time, safety stops being something you maintain alone and becomes something you can experience with others. Strength isn't proven by how much you can endure in silence. Real strength shows up when you say, "This is hard for me," and allow yourself to be met there. You don't have to change overnight. One honest moment is enough to begin. If this video helped you recognize yourself, even a little, consider staying with us. This channel is a space for the quiet patterns people rarely talk about and the inner experiences that don't always have words. And if you feel able, share in the comments what is one thing you're carrying right now that you wish you didn't have to hold alone. You don't have to be the strong one here. Some people move through life like a quiet pillar, always holding weight, rarely making sound. From the outside, that steadiness can look like strength that needs nothing, as if self-reliance were a natural climate they were born into. But when you stay with it long enough, you begin to notice the small costs hidden in that calm. The pauses where something learned to stay unspoken. For some viewers, this recognition may feel familiar rather than new, like hearing your own footsteps echo back to you. Not as a flaw to correct, but as a pattern that once made sense and simply never loosened its grip. And sometimes, when asking for help never became an option. The next quiet adaptation is distance. Not pulling away in anger, but stepping back slowly, trimming connections until the weight feels manageable again. That movement, away from help, then away from people, opens into another layer worth sitting with.